Baseball fans, you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. While you're here, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with the Atlanta Braves. Also, please make sure to follow me on social media. Those are the tags there. You can see what we're doing, what we're going to be doing later on, and, of course, all the content that we're going to have through the offseason and into spring training and beyond for 2023. Very excited for the things we have planned going forward, and I hope you'll be along for the ride. So make sure to follow there. We got something to talk about tonight. We talked about this a little bit last night, so it's obviously not a big surprise. Sean Murphy. And this is something that I talked about last night. I gave you my immediate reaction, but I really wanted to dive deep into this today. And for good reason. First of all, I would say, number one, tell you how much I like this trade. Number two, give you also my concerns about this trade, and also give you a little bit of confidence in the organization as a whole in response to this trade. So before we get into the ins and outs of the Braves organization, what I want to do first is talk about Sean Murphy, who this guy is. So I went and this is the trade, right? This is the overall trade that happened yesterday. So the Braves, of course, received Sean Murphy. That is the only player they received. The Brewers received former Atlanta Brave William Contreras and Yeager and Payampas. The A's received Manny Pena and Freddie Tarnok from the Braves, and Kyle Muller as well, Salinas as well. So the Braves really cleaned house here a bit, and that is kind of what led to, I wouldn't call it backlash, I would call it a bit of uncertainty when it comes to the Braves front office, which is unusual for this front office, and certainly not from me, but from you guys. I mean, I've gotten the comments, I've seen the Twitter posts, I've seen it all day long, that this trade is kind of the first one that, doesn't make a lot of sense to some people. But again, before we get into that trade, which we are going to talk about it in depth, let's talk about Sean Murphy. Again, this is an outstanding player. Sean Murphy, a .250 average last year, .322 on base, .413 slug, and 18 homers. Now, if you ask me, I don't think that quite does him justice. I don't, because you're discounting the fact that this is defensively just an absolute weapon to have on the field and behind the plate. I think he's a great catcher that can help your pitching staff, that can help a lot of different aspects of the game. I mean, think about how much of an impact d'Arnaud had throughout the postseason in 2021. That's because, take the bat out of his hands, he's a great catcher behind the plate. That being said, there's also room to think that Sean Murphy could improve leaving Oakland. Now, look, when you look at splits home and away, that doesn't always guarantee anything. But away from home, he is a much better player. I would expect to see a player much like the one on the right side of your screen as opposed to the home side. I expect to see that a lot. Oakland is notably a bad ballpark, and I think that's what you can expect. And look, it's not the best numbers in the whole wide world. I'm aware of that. And I understand the overall confusion, frustration, and that kind of thing. But I would also like to tell you that AA did comment today on this whole situation, and I think hearing from AA is honestly the best thing I can do for you. So what we've done is we went and got clips of AA speaking to the media yesterday. I went and took it, and I got some clips that I want to talk about specifically and touch base on what he said and the reasoning behind this. So I'm going to play the first one here. This is the appeal that the Braves had for Murphy. Here's what AA had to say about attaining Sean Murphy.
I mean, look, he's a good player. He's a Gold Glover. I think the defensive side, I mean, the Gold Glove speaks for itself, right? So it's he can frame, he can block, he can throw. One of the most important things that we value quite a bit is he cares a lot about the prep and the advance. And that's, huge. Travis excels at that. And obviously the receiving side, the framing side, Travis excels at that as well. So, look, he's, like you said, he's a big, strong guy. He's got great arm strength. I just don't think it's fair to compare him to, some of the other guys. But, look, you win a Gold Glove, you're a great defensive player, right? No doubt about it. So, I think that was definitely the appeal, that we were getting a strong guy from a defensive standpoint. We're getting a really strong player behind the plate who's got ability with the bat, but there's no doubt his calling card is his glove.
So again, that's hearing directly from the man himself, Alex Anthopoulos, about the Braves' appeal for making this trade. And look, I know that there's going to be conflicting opinions about it. I've been seeing it again all day. I've gotten text messages about it. You guys have commented about it. I'm well aware that this has caused some, I wouldn't even call it frustration. I don't know that that's fair, but it has definitely caused a bit of uncertainty from the fan base. And we're going to talk about that as well here tonight. In fact, I'm going to literally, right now, I'm going to read you a couple of comments I got on the live stream we did last night after the stream, because I think this is kind of an indication as to where the fan base is. Jesse Lancaster, if you're out there, said last night, at this point, I'm not a fan of Alex Anthopoulos as much as I used to be, for multiple reasons. We're going to go through this. He's going to let Dansby walk, for one. That hasn't happened yet. He let Freddie Freeman walk. He signed Charlie Morton, which I could be wrong, but I think he's about to drop off. He traded Shea Langoliers and Kyle Muller, who I believe in, and he got rid of Will Smith for a player that did nothing back for us. So, first of all, I think your logic's a bit flawed here, and I'm only picking this one out because I think this is the general frustration from this one camp in the Braves fan base. For number one, Dansby's still unsettled. We're going to leave that one to the side right now. In terms of Freddie Freeman, I think Alex Anthopoulos did what he had to do in that moment. I think we're all pretty much understanding that, that is what it, came down to. And we obviously hate to see Freddie Freeman walk. Wish him the best, but that time has passed. We're here now. In terms of Alex Anthopoulos as a GM, I hate to always circle back to this, but this is the guy who made the phone calls that landed Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Richard Rodriguez, who I still think is underrated for what he did in that season, at least in the regular season. I think there's a lot of guys that made huge impacts that season, and just because Alex Anthopoulos did not land Freddie Freeman back, you're forgetting the fact of what he got in response to that. He went out and traded for Matt Olson. You mentioned losing Shea Langoliers. We lost Shea Langoliers and Christian Pache in that deal. But look at what it got us back. It got us a ready-made, younger version of a Freddie Freeman type of first baseman in Matt Olson. And look, Matt Olson has been nothing but great since he came to Atlanta. I think he had a phenomenal year this year, and he'll only get better. And I think he fits in well with what the Braves do. Now, look, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that this was my favorite trade of all time. It certainly was not. I would have much rather, look, I'll tell you this. Actually, I had this conversation with someone earlier. My biggest disappointment with this trade is not that we lost Contreras and Muller, which is a big disappointment. I hated to lose those two guys. I'm a fan just like you are. I enjoyed watching these two guys play. I travel up to Gwinnett pretty often to see these guys play. I enjoy what they did, and I was looking forward to see it at the major league level. Now, that being said, the biggest disappointment was that we were unable to offload Ozuna. That was my biggest disappointment. That was my biggest disappointment in this. I really would have liked to, if we're going to give up two major prospects, maybe even three, I would really have liked to offload Ozuna. Now, that being said, it's probably a challenging task to get a team to accept, to accept Ozuna. Ozuna has obviously made himself very untradeable for a multitude of reasons, and that is what it is. But it seems to me that there is a lot of folks out there who are unhappy with the way this trade went down. And I would also like to say to you guys, Alex Anthopoulos is right there with you. He doesn't necessarily want to get rid of good prospects. That's not the goal here. But this was a very rare opportunity to attain what I would call an elite level defensive catcher and make the team better right now. And you can tell me that Contreras is better than Sean Murphy. No, he's not. He's just not. The stats say otherwise. Contreras had a good year. Obviously went to the All-Star game. No matter who should have been there, shouldn't have been there, whatever. He did make it to the All-Star game. And I would tell you that I was fully confident that Contreras was going to be the backup catcher going into 2023. I was more than confident of that. But again, this was a rare opportunity to get a really good player. And this is what Alex Anthopoulos had to say about that.
Yeah, look, it's always hard to make trades. It's always hard to trade guys away. It's just a rare opportunity to get a premium defensive player at a premium position, right? But it's tough. I mean, we gave up a lot of really talented guys that we really like, but we look at Sean and how he fits with this core and this group. It's just a really good fit. Now you combine him with Travis. We put so much stock into that position. The bar is very high for us. We're very particular, very specific about who we target in a role like that. And this was about him, no doubt about it. And look, you love to give up less in these trades, but it's just, you're trying to get a really good player that other teams want as well. So that was the cost to get it done. We ultimately were willing, but no doubt it's hard to give up the talent that we did.
So again, Alex Anthopoulos is right there with you. I don't think that anybody thought this was an easy trade to make. Again, obviously losing fundamental parts of the future and Kyle Muller, Freddie Tarnock, and of course William Contreras. But what this tells me is the Braves aren't done. 3 spots were opened up on the 40-man roster with this trade yesterday, and they've yet to be filled. I expect the Braves to go for it. I expect the Braves to make some moves in the next few weeks, whether it be free agency or whatever the case may be. Shortstop's obviously an issue. Starting pitching depth could use a boost at this point, even though I still think we have plenty. Now that we've lost Kyle Muller, it could certainly use some kind of a boost or at least an insurance policy. Left field is really where I'm looking, guys. That is my biggest, I guess, hole in the field right now that needs to be filled. Because, yes, you have Ozuna, you have Rosario. Haven't quite made it other than that the past couple of years. Those 2 guys have not covered their fair share. And I think we need to do something, but I think it kind of starts with unloading Ozuna. That being said, Alex Anthopoulos, I'm going to play one more clip of what he had to say because he feels the same way a lot of you guys do. This was not an easy trade to make for Sean Murphy. William Contreras had obviously given a lot to the Braves, was a big bat throughout this past season, and of course, I would even say in 2021, I mean, he was a member of the team. Kyle Muller grew up in the Braves organization, and came up this past year, pitched in doubleheaders and different opportunities where that depth needed to be there, and he filled that spot. This was not an easy trade to make, but here's what Alex Anthopoulos said, and I think you're going to see a similar opinion to how a lot of you guys feel from Alex Anthopoulos. So here you go.
Yeah, look, it's not a clean, when you look at it on paper, we definitely didn't go into the winter thinking we need to do something behind the plate. We viewed it as a strength. We really felt confident and comfortable with Darno, Contreras, and Manny Pena with the DH spot, and that was a position of strength. The issue is you can't decide when players become available, and you can sit there and say, well, we don't have a need in 23, so let's pass, but you may not have access to that player again. So ultimately, this was the time to get him. It seemed like he likely was going to move this offseason at some point. And then once on the weekend, all of a sudden, there was a path there with a 3-way deal. As much as it wasn't a need for 23, with the 3 years of control and so on and everything he brings, it's a really good player to acquire who's a good fit for our club. We're going to try to find a way to make the deal work.
Now, I think you can hear it in his voice that this is not a trade that he necessarily thought he was going to make, didn't necessarily think he wanted to make, but this is a trade that I think he believes makes this team better. And you know what? I'm willing to see it play out. The biggest thing in this entire interview that I want you to take away was a clip you just heard. One specific part of that clip. He said this. He said, you never know when these players are going to be available. Sean Murphy was going to be sent somewhere. Now, I want you to also think about how hard it is to find catching depth in the Major League Baseball. It's not out there right now. You're talking about a guy who's been compared to JT Realmuto, though I don't really get into that. There have been those comparisons. This guy is an elite defender. In terms of the bat, he's got a capable bat. But this is also an opportunity to, again, make the team better. I also want you to think about this. Trey Turner just got traded to the Phillies. I'm not saying that it's going to have a major effect because in the grand scheme of things, it's not. But with the new base running rules, with Trey Turner now being in the division once again, I would have to say that catching depth and catching defensive catching has to be a priority now. And not just for Trey Turner, obviously, but for those guys that can make an impact on the base pass, you have to have some kind of defense. And I think that is a big deal there. Now, in terms of the rest of this offseason, should you expect more from Alex Anthopoulos? That's what this video is titled. By the way, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. That would really help me out. But yes, I would say this. In terms of this offseason, should you expect more? Yes, you should. And I believe you will see more. It may not be what you want. It may not be the exact way you drew it up. But this is not GM mode in MLB The Show. This is real life. You know, things happen a certain way. Negotiations happen a certain way. Trades happen a certain way. And a lot of people, and these comments that I've seen, you know, a lot of, it's, well, I would have done this. I would have done this. In a perfect world, you can say that. With hindsight, you can say that. But I would also say this. You know, the other team has to want something, right? They have to want something. And when I look at this trade, I saw somebody mention earlier that instead of Muller, they might have put Ian Anderson there. Well, sure, I probably would have done that too. But at the same time, if I'm the Oakland A's, who do you want? Who are you picking out of the Braves organization that you say, yeah, I want that guy. I want Muller, I want Tarnick, I want Salinas. Manny Pena, we'll take him off your hands, but I want those three. There's got to be give and take in trades. There always is, and there always will be. That would not surprise me. If I'm the Brewers, who do I want Pena or do I want Contreras? I want Contreras. Contreras was always going to have more value than Manny Pena. I told you that I thought Contreras might be traded. I'm not saying that this is exactly the way I drew it up. It's certainly not. But I'm not going to knock Alex Anthopoulos for making a trade here and using his pieces, because here's the deal. The Brewers and the A's are in a different spot than where the Braves are. They are in a spot where young players can grow, young players can develop. The Braves are in a spot where they have to win right now. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to last. I think it is. I think it's going to last a long time. I think the next 5-6 years are going to be the Braves leading the charge, maybe even beyond that. Now, that being said, it's not going to happen every year. You know, the division is getting better. The same people that criticize the Braves for not doing anything criticize this trade for happening. So I just want you to keep that in mind. I would also say this. The Braves do need to win now. Their window is right now. They're a championship-level team, and they have to look to improve in any way they can. This improves what I would say defensively. It drastically improves it. In terms of offense, not really. I look at the offensive improvements for this offseason. I really look for that to come in left field. I hope the Braves decide to do something big in left field and go get a left field bat. I'm not sure. I know you're going to ask me who I want to go get. I don't know just yet. I'll let you know when I know. But I think the Braves are going to have to do something in left field. I don't think they're going to make that if they get stuck with Ozuna, let's just say Ozuna doesn't get traded before the start of the year. That could very well happen. If Ozuna were to go off for the first half of the season, I think that he's potential trade bait. But I do imagine that left field is a spot. If in a perfect world, I saw your comment there, Josh. In a perfect world, I would go Brian Reynolds. That being said, you're going to have to give up Ian Anderson, Bryce Elder, and multiple other prospects. I wouldn't even begin to know how far. The Pirates are going to ask for way too much for Reynolds. And a couple of years ago, they were shutting it down completely. They wouldn't even take offers. This is the same team who last year, when David Bednar was, frankly, at his peak, he was never going to be any better, higher marketed than what he was last year as a closer for the Pirates. They wouldn't trade him. And you're talking about a team who's not going to compete in the near future at all for a guy who's not old, but also not young, and a guy who's not going to be necessarily could not be that, you could have got 2 or 3 major prospects back for David Bednar, and that team didn't do it. So that tells you where their heads are. The Pirates are a weird one to trade with, so I don't know that that's going to happen. I would personally love it if we somehow landed Brian Reynolds. I would think that would be just a phenomenal pickup for Alex Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves. But we'll, of course, see how that goes. There's a lot of left field picks. I'm sure we'll cover that at some point in the offseason. It might happen tomorrow for all we know. But we'll see. I'm going to open it up to questions now. I'm going to open it up to you guys. And remember, guys, if you would do me the favor, Super Chats, of course, get you priority. They just do. It helps me narrow it down to the questions that, if you really got a question you want to ask, Super Chat's the best way. I spend a little bit more time on them. Otherwise, I'm kind of just going through the list, knocking them out left and right. It really does help me narrow it down. That being said, also, if you would do me the favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. And don't forget to follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram. They're right there. And also, a lot of you guys have been watching the past 2 nights. If you like baseball content, and, of course, I'm sure you're missing Major League Baseball, we do a lot of it here. Please tell a friend, share the videos, put them out there, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, wherever you want to put them. I try to share these videos to get them out there, but it really does help if you guys support the channel through that as well. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it, and I really do appreciate your constant support. Let's see how we get in. Let's see what you guys want to do. Manny says, yo, what's up, Manny? Yosemite says, let's give it up for Tyler Redmond. Thank you. I appreciate it. John Edward Kruger says, Alex will put this team together. Be patient. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's still early. I know winter meetings are past us, and I get all that, but you're seeing deals made now pretty regularly. Dansby's still out there. I think Dansby's going to push this to the very end. Well, no matter where he goes, I don't think he's going to go taking an offer in the next few days. But crazier things have happened. Yosemite says, one day later, I don't hate the trade. Honestly, I almost forgot it even happened. Do good, Wild Bill. It isn't like we traded him to Oakland. Oh, wait. Yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, trades stink, right? I mean, there's trades. I'll put it to you this way. When I was 14 years old and the Braves traded all my favorite players away, Craig Kimbrell, BJ, Justin Upton, Brian McCann, Evan Gaddis, et cetera, whoever may have been on the team at the time. When they made that trade, when they went into the rebuild, it stunk. But look where it's led us to, right? So sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture. I think the bigger picture is here, and I think you gotta look to that. You just do. But I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Little J says, rest in peace, Mike Leach. We announced that prematurely last night, got false information, but it is what it is. Mike Leach did indeed pass away last night, late last night. Prayers for his family, all of that. Really do hate that. He was a guy who I always enjoyed seeing him walk off the field, and the reporter that had to go chase him down, who always gave him an interesting response, and I'm going to miss seeing that, and I hate I never got to meet him. I was gearing up for SEC Media Days at some point coming up in the new year, and I always heard that Mike Leach was the greatest part about SEC Media Days, so I was really looking forward to that, and hate I will not get that opportunity to meet him, but yes, rest in peace, Mike Leach indeed. Corey Carter says, man, I'm not sure about... Oh, I'm sorry. Or trading Contreras and prospects for Murphy seems totally out of line for how AA has been running this team. Well, here's the thing. This does seem a bit out of line. I will agree with you there in terms of the way this has gone down. I will completely agree with you there. But I would also say this. When it comes to what AA's done with this team, the team has changed. The team has drastically changed because you're talking about a team who's now competing every year for the World Series. I mean, you're talking about a team that could literally win the World Series in a year. And some people might not think the Braves are there yet. I do. I think they have a team that can legitimately go compete every year. That being said, they need to lock up Max Fried for that to happen, but hopefully that will. But they have a team who is all in all just a well-oiled machine, and it is different now. And you got to think about the ins and outs of why that is, because it's not just that the team is playing better. It's also that more money's coming in, and they can afford to trade. There's also less positions to fill, right? I mean, if you were to draw out a baseball field, you would cover up every position on the field with the exception of left field and shortstop right now. Every other position is covered. So the prospects that you're talking about don't necessarily have anywhere to go to once they make it to the big leagues. They don't have anywhere they can necessarily build upon. And I'm not saying that that's always going to be the case. I mean, we, of course, need depth, and we need them to be there. But let's be honest, guys. Kyle Muller was MLB ready last year. He was pitching in the majors last year. We just didn't have anywhere to put him regularly. Bryce Elder, I'll be honest with you, I think is going to be a legit competitor for that fifth spot in the rotation. Mike Soroka is still a competitor there. I mean, we have a ton of guys. Waskari Noah, who was a big part of our rotation not too long ago, is still in the minors. Now, I'm not saying that he's shown me enough to put him in the majors. He certainly hasn't here lately. But there's a lot of guys that were kind of bogging down the system. And that just is what it is. We have a lot of pitching depth. Catcher-wise, I mean, I would have never in a million years thought that we would have traded Contreras and Langoliers in the matter of a year. I thought, to tell you the truth, I was kind of wrong on all fronts on what the Braves did, because I thought when Langoliers got traded, that was going to be Contreras and Pache headed off to Oakland. I mean, I really genuinely thought that was going to be the trade, because I thought Langoliers provided a little bit more long-term and provided a little bit more of consistency behind the plate. That being said, it, of course, didn't go that way. It, of course, fell a different direction, and that is what it is. And that could just be that maybe the A's wanted Langoliers over Contreras, and that's what it took, or wanted Langoliers over Contreras, and that's what it took to move that move forward, and the Braves needed a first baseman, and that's what it took to do it. That is what it is back then. But now, I wouldn't have expected Contreras to be traded to the Brewers. That was, the last thing on my mind, much less a three-way trade between, Oakland, the Brewers, and the Braves. I mean, it's kind of insane the way this whole thing went down. I don't think anybody foresaw this trade happening. I don't. That being said, I'm not overly surprised that we traded Contreras and Muller. I thought they might be trade pieces anyway, and I know that's not necessarily what you want to hear, but look, again, Muller has been a guy who has kind of been stagnant in the system, and I don't mean that in a bad way. This is not Muller's fault, but when you have Fried as your ace, when you have Kyle Wright have the year that he had, when you have Charlie Morton, who's a solidified stud and going to be in the rotation when he's getting paid like he is, and when you have a guy like Strider come up, there's only so many guys that are going to fit the bill for the fifth spot. I mean, it just is what it is. Again, not Muller's fault, not Bryce Elder's fault. It just goes that way sometimes. So I really thought he was going to be a trade piece this offseason. Again, surprised to see him get traded for who he got traded for, but overall not terribly surprised that either one of those guys got traded. I thought we had plenty of catching depth. I thought we would trade a catcher. I didn't think we would trade two catchers in one deal with Manny Pena and William Contreras. That did surprise me. But overly, again, not terribly surprised by that, to tell you the truth. I know I've kind of rambled on and on. I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Corey Carter says, AA way. Oh, the Alex Anthopoulos way is signing young talent to long-term deals, signing vets to fill in holes, and trading prospects to bring in difference makers. Yes, agreed. So far, that has been his way. Again, I'm not entirely convinced that's going to be how it always is. I mean, what other team gets to do what the Braves have done? And to be honest with you, that kind of goes to what I'm saying in terms of this being a bit of an overreaction by these fans out there that are saying that this is a major falling apart situation for the Braves. It's not. Not my favorite deal, certainly, by Alex Anthopoulos. I mean, hard to beat 2021. I mean, look, I don't love this deal, if I'm honest with you. I don't. I don't hate this deal. I think this deal's a good deal. It's not my favorite, again, mainly because of how much we are losing. But when I think about how much this is going to help the Braves right now, I think it's better. Now, in terms of what you said, the Double-A way is signing young talent to long-term deals, signing vets to fill in holes. Yeah, but when you're put in a position, to make something happen, Double A also went out and got Matt Olson last year. Now, this is a different situation. It's not like Darno was running out the door. It's not like Contreras was running out the door like Freddie Freeman was. And look, I think we all would have looked to either sign a shortstop, whether that be Swanson or someone else, or go after left field. I think we all would have rather have seen that. But with all of the confusion in left field, what I mean by confusion, you have multiple guys in that situation. You have Rosario, you have Ozuna, you have, they're in free agency now, but Duvall, you have Grossman. I mean, there's a lot of outfielders that you don't know where to put. That was the situation last year. Going into this year, you still have Rosario and Ozuna that you got to figure out. Is Rosario going to be your everyday left fielder, or is it going to be someone else? How are you going to get rid of Ozuna if you can? Or is Ozuna going to be a DH? Or is he going to ride the bench? What is it? So there's still a lot to figure out there. So I think this is, for one, ensuring the defensive capabilities of the catcher, which is something that I think they've really harped on with Contreras. I mean, I remember regularly seeing them work with Contreras and try to figure him out. And I mean, we saw major improvements from 2021 to 2022, became a fan favorite, rightfully so. But I think defense is really going to win you over if you're a catcher for the Braves. I mean, Tyler Flowers, God love him, did not have a bat on his shoulder. He didn't have a bat in his hands half the time, but he was great defensively. And the Braves kept bringing him back for that reason, in my opinion. And Alex Anthopoulos also spoke on that. Maverick has a super chat. Appreciate that. Remember, super chats do give you priority. Also, remember to like the video while you're here. Really do appreciate that. Maverick brings up a trade simulator for Brian Reynolds. I'm kind of intrigued to see this. Braves would have to give up, quite a bit. Okay. So a trade simulator for Reynolds. Braves would have to give up Anderson, Grissom, Ozuna, Quintero, and $40 million cash. But there's a lot going on here. Yeah, so the Braves would have to come up with quite the hefty package. I don't think Ozuna, to tell you the truth, and I know you're putting this in Trade Simulator, I think Ozuna is working against you. Okay, so this is a trade simulator. You're proposing the idea, for those of you out there, he's proposing the idea that the Braves were to trade for Brian Reynolds with the Pirates, give up Ian Anderson, Vaughn Grissom, Marcell Ozuna, and Jose Quintero, plus $40 million cash. But also deal in Garcia and Choi. I think we can simplify this. If it's me, and you can put this in Trade Simulator if you want, I don't know the money behind it or anything like that. I'm completely going off, the dome here. But if it's me, if I'm the Braves, and I can't live without Reynolds. I'm trading Ian Anderson. I'm going to say no on Grissom because we're unsettled with Dansby right now, but I get why you put him in there. I'm going with Ian Anderson, Bryce Elder, and Jose Quintero. Oh, man, the cash is something that I'm not sure on, but I put Ozuna out of that. I don't think you deal Ozuna in that deal. You'd have to, Ozuna's going to be dealt in a deal if he's dealt, which I don't know that he's going to be, trust me, I'd like to see it. If Ozuna is dealt, he's going to be dealt with prospects and no money attached, maybe even with the Braves attaching some. So I get the $40 million, but in that case, the Braves would be losing money on it because he's only going to get paid another $32. So I think you pay half Ozuna's salary, and you hope for the best if you were to dish him out. You pay for half the salary, you send him somewhere that could use a bat, could take a chance on him. I don't know that place even exists right now. Josh Gillum says he thinks Ozuna is going to bounce back this year. He has the talent to do so. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know. I will tell you that we haven't quite seen a sign from Ozuna that that's going to happen. I would like it to happen. Trust me. I mean, I think, I always am in for a redemption story, but who really knows, right? I mean, that's kind of where we are. Like, who truthfully knows what's going to happen? I would like him to. I thought it was going to happen last year because, look, this is a guy who, before last season, won the Dominican League MVP. So I thought, maybe there's a possibility he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to come back and do it, and it just wasn't meant to be. But we'll, of course, see. But then again, crazier things have happened. That being said, I really do appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. Just a reminder, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram right there at Tyler Redmond TV. You can tweet me. I'll try to get back to as many of you guys as I can. Tweeting me is probably the best way to get me. That or just comment on YouTube. Instagram, you guys message me sometimes and I don't see it for like 2 weeks. So Twitter is definitely the best place. But again, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. A lot of you guys active in the chat tonight for obvious reasons. A lot going on with the Braves, and probably our first chance to talk about the Braves in some time. Let's see. JD says the Atlanta Braves need an elite outfield. At one time, they had an elite outfield. It wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I would definitely agree. I think they have 2/3 of it right now in Michael Harris and Acuna. That being said, they certainly need the third part of that, third musketeer over there and left. And I don't think that Ozuna or Rosario right now is the answer. It just isn't. You want to be strong up the middle for sure, right? Like your corner outfielders can afford to be a little less defensive, but Ozuna is a non-factor in left field. And I don't think he's going to be able to carry enough at the plate to make that worth doing. If I'm Alex Anthopoulos, I'm almost doing anything I can to get rid of Ozuna. I might even cut him. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to give him a chance to do better this year and hopefully potentially trade him at the deadline. But they're definitely going to want him gone. We'll have to monitor that and see what it is. Sutton says, "My God, our left field is horrible." Well, I mean, Rosario is who he is, right? Like, here's the thing, and I want to do this. I always talk about Rosario. I have a soft spot in my heart for Eddie Rosario. Frankly, for the postseason in 2021. Make no ifs, ands, buts about it. That's why I like Eddie Rosario. But he showed me in that moment, this is a guy who's got nerves of steel. He just did not have a good year. Now, historically speaking, Rosario is much better than what he was in 2022. That being said, the back of the baseball card doesn't always mean you're going to have a good year in 2023, but it could have a full offseason. Don't start the year with eyesight problems. Good things could happen. Who knows? But I would venture to say that, I got to see more out of Rosario. And to be honest with you, I would think that ultimately, the Braves can't really afford to take a chance on him. I wouldn't really mind it if they did, but he'd have to really come out swinging if he wanted to, make an impact beyond the All-Star break. So we'll of course see what happens, but we'll see. Michael Carey says Ozuna is a liability in left field. I would agree with you. Let's see. Baseball guy 01 says, "I swear, why can't we just throw all the money Correa wants to him and platoon Eddie and Grissom in left field? If Grissom is the left field of the future and we have our 1 through 9 for the next 5-10 years outside of a DH." Sure, and a DH would be easy to pick up at the trade deadline or in the offseason. I mean, you can get any bat, so it doesn't really matter who that is. Now, that being said, let's hold off for a second. I'm not sold that Vaughn Grissom is the left field of the future. He's played infield, he's played shortstop his whole life. He's played infield his whole life. I don't know. I mean, he can play left. Make no mistake. He's an athlete. But I don't know that that's really where he's going to be. Now, if we re-sign Dansby, I'm all for shifting Vaughn Grissom to left field. We talked about that during the season last season. So, we'll see. I don't know that that's really where the Braves want him, but I'm not exactly against it. I think Grissom could be a fit in left field given the time and, obviously the practice. He's been working with Ron Washington. I think Grissom, the Braves are not on selling Grissom. They are not on trading Grissom, at least until they figure shortstop out. He's their default go-to if Dansby signs to somewhere, which that's looking more and more likely to happen, if you ask me. But, that's for another day. We'll, of course, monitor that situation. But, yeah, Grissom's untouchable. I don't think he's going anywhere. Now, if you ask me in terms of the other free agent shortstops on the market, I know Correa's out there. I know obviously Bogarts is headed to San Diego and that kind of thing. Look, guys, I'm okay with Vaughn Grissom taking over as shortstop next year. And I know that's not necessarily the popular opinion, but this is a guy who I really like. He's a guy who I think has a lot of potential. And he's a guy, when called on this year, did phenomenal, for a rookie for sure. Outstanding rookie numbers, and a guy that got called up from Double-A. Now, that's not completely abnormal, but I'm just saying this is a guy who, and again, this isn't going to make you thrill, but when I look at the lineup, when I'm making up the lineup, right, I'm going to find somewhere to write this down. When I'm making up the lineup, and it's Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen at the front of that lineup, and on the back end, it's Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, Darno, and now Sean Murphy. I can kind of get over it. I can look past the inexperience of Vaughn Grissom and understand that, maybe, the other guys are going to have to step up and be there and be the guys that carry the lineup. I think for the Braves to be successful in 2021, they're going to have big years out of a few guys. Number one being Ronald Acuna Jr. I think obviously this year was not the year that they wanted out of Ronald Acuna. I don't think anybody's arguing that, but they're going to have a big year out of him. I think the other guy that they're going to have a big year out of, and this is going to be kind of out of right field here, is Mike Soroka, which I think a lot of people are forgetting that Mike Soroka exists. Mike Soroka, now coming off a full off season, should be fully recovered. We'll see how he comes into this year. This is a guy who, when healthy, is a Cy Young level pitcher. Now, it's been some time, but do not forget about this guy. This guy is a legit competitor for that fifth spot. Bryce Elder's the other. Tell you the truth, if Soroka comes out and, it's tough to say this, but if Soroka were to have just an outstanding start to 2023, it would not surprise me if Bryce Elder then became a trade piece. And that sounds crazy. And the only thing I think saving him is that depth, the idea of depth. But when I look at our pitching, I see guys, outside of Soroka, you have Ian Anderson, you have Bryce Elder, and don't sleep. Do not sleep on Bryce Elder. Do not sleep on Colby Allard. Do not sleep on Ian Anderson. Those three guys are all guys that are geared up to have Kyle Wright level comebacks. So we'll see how it goes, but don't sleep, especially on Colby Allard. And I say comebacks, but they're geared to have that level of turning it up. And Colby Allard's one I'd really keep an eye on. Maverick, another trade deal, okay? He says, we're going to send Anderson and Grissom $15 million cash and get Reynolds and Davis both outfielders from the Pirates and use everything, go big for Dansby. Don't need two outfielders, only need one from the Pirates, and I'm going to go Reynolds there. I don't know that I'm sending Grissom in that either. I would send Anderson and Elder, because here's the thing, the Pirates, if I'm the Pirates, and again, the Pirates are a very odd team. The way they handle trade situations, they're just a very odd team to read and understand. But that being said, the Pirates don't much care what prospects they get back. If you're a brand new team, which essentially the Pirates are going to be in a few years, you watch, they're in a rebuild stage and they don't know it yet. If you're the Pirates, you probably want pitching. You want to build your staff on pitching. So I'm sending Anderson and Bryce Elder. Maybe Anderson and some other prospect. I don't know. But that would be what I would do. I wouldn't send Grissom because, again, Dansby, I know you say go big for Dansby, but at the same time, it's not necessarily going to happen. You have to have a backup, and right now Vaughn Grissom is your backup. Jesse Evans brings up a good point. Brian Reynolds isn't worth the price tag. In a perfect world, Brian Reynolds fits the bill. He would be, I think, anybody's first pick. Anybody that follows the game, I think he would be his first pick. But, we'll see. We will see. Baseball Guy 01 says, what about a trade of Ozuna, Anderson, or Elder, and majority of Ozuna's contract to the Twins for Nick Gordon for Nick Gordon and a lefty utility Well, if I wanted a lefty utility, I'm just going to be honest with you, I'd go out and get Robbie Grossman, who I believe is still a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. Nick Gordon, I don't know for sure, but sure, I don't know. You're looking for outfielder, second baseman, shortstop. He's a utility guy, 272. He only hit 9 homers. I don't know that I'm willing to give up. It's not a bad deal. I get where you're going. This what you're suggesting here, Ozuna, Anderson, and majority of Ozuna's contract to the Twins. So Ozuna and Anderson, essentially, with the Braves paying some of the bill for Nick Gordon. Nick Gordon's not quite a big enough name to raise any headlines. I think the bigger headline out of that deal would be that Ozuna is gone. But we'll see. Little J says, opinion on Ozzy underperforming lately. Well, Ozzy was hurt for the majority of the second half of the season and didn't really ever come back. So hard for me to say. I think he's probably going to be ready to play 2023 baseball. Worldwide Studio, to circumvent that, Worldwide Studio says, is Ozzy going to start season opener? I would assume so. Full off season, you'd think that would be enough time for him to heal. He was almost ready to come back last year. They were talking about him playing in the postseason. Yeah, I would say so. I don't see any reason why not to expect that. JL says, Dansby is not worth it at all. I'm sorry. Yeah, look, here's the deal. The Braves, as much as we all love Dansby, and look, we certainly appreciate what he's done here at On Deck. As much as we all admire what he's done, though, you have to also realize the Braves and Dansby are $40 million apart in negotiations. I believe last reported the Braves were offering $100 million and Dansby wanted $140. Well, whether that's a difference in years or whether that's a difference in overall salary, that's $40 million. That's a lot. Now, that's not saying that they couldn't be done, that it couldn't be done. I certainly think it could, but we'll see. Joe Reese says, Double A told Mad Dog today on MLB Network that Mike Soroka was in Atlanta throwing, and he looked great and said he felt great. I think you'll see Soroka from 19 in 2023. I think you're going to see much of this guy. I really do. Look, now, when they announced that he was pitching in Rome, obviously this video is from his first start in Rome. I trekked up there to see it. I bought a ticket right behind home plate. I wanted to see this in action. Because this is a guy who, again, could have been a major game changer had he been healthy in 2022. But guess what, guys? If he's healthy in 2023, he could still be a major game changer. Now, I want you to think about this, and we're talking about this now. This whole situation in New York with them picking up Verlander, right? Again, they're spending $86 million on those two guys, on Verlander and Scherzer. Now, look, all due respect to both of those guys. Again, Hall of Famers. But $86 million could buy you half the Braves roster. Okay? I'm just saying. It could buy you a ton. And for two pitchers, again, I know people don't care about the money, whatever. I get those comments all the time. I care about the money. Because, again, stupid money leads to dumb results. It just does. Now, I want you to think about this. In terms of Soroka, you're paying Soroka, I think, maybe $3 million this year. Now, whether he sits the bench or whatever, it's $3 million. I'm not exactly sure where the money is, but I know it's a low number. That's just another guy that you're tacking on that low price range, and he's a guy that you're going to have locked up, for some years. He could come up and throw Cy Young level and get comeback player of the year and demand his price, sure. But if he can just be a back of the end rotation, he's young, if he's healthy, and he can pitch, this is going to be interesting. I fully expect Mike Soroka to have a good year this year. There's no reason to not to, other than, expecting a downfall, but I don't. I think he's finally going to be able to pitch like we know he can, and I'm looking forward to it. Mike says, could Arcia and Grissom platoon shortstop? Yes, that's the plan. Right now, the default plan, Alex Anthopoulos spoke on this yesterday. Alex Anthopoulos actually spoke on this yesterday. That is the plan if Dansby doesn't come back or they don't sign Correa. Or if Dansby doesn't come back, that's the plan. The Braves are not pursuing another shortstop. And to be honest with you, I don't think they need to. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I think Braves fans kind of get into that mode where it seems like, well, the Mets are doing this, the Phillies are doing this. That's true. That's certainly true. They've both gotten better. But also keep in mind, they're catching up to the Braves. And the Braves don't have anybody to sign. The Mets got Verlander in response to losing DeGrom. The Phillies went and got Trey Turner because they lost, Gene Segura? They had to go get somebody. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, but again, stupid money leads to stupid results. It's just my opinion. Miguel says, I don't expect any positive energy from Murphy, who was better last season, Freeman or Olsen. I don't think that Murphy will be more productive than Contreras. Alex is doing mess. See, here's the thing, though. Freeman had a better year last year. He's also older and has more years in the league. And look, he might be a better player, but you're also paying him, what you're paying him. And no disrespect to Freeman, I would have loved to see him come back to Atlanta, but that is what it is. Now, based on what you're saying, Miguel, I don't know about the positive energy. I can't comment on that. But what I can comment on is this. Contreras had a 2.7 WAR last year, and Murphy had a 3.5. So just last year, Murphy was more productive altogether than Contreras was. Contreras might have a better bat, but there's no doubt that the defense adds up. So I'm just saying, I think it's actually a pretty good deal. Josh Green actually asked a good question. Josh Green says, do you expect Sean Murphy to get extended soon? I think there's at least going to be an attempt. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but when you saw how quick the Braves were ready to extend Matt Olson last year, it would not surprise me at all if that were to happen. I'll just put it that way. It just wouldn't, because they want to lock up a guy. This guy is, a free agent 2025. I would also say, again, I said this last night, but I'll say it again. Coming out of Oakland, I told you this last night. There is a player that I have spoken with a time or two who can't wait to get out of Oakland, okay? And I guarantee you Olsen had some similar feelings, and it's pretty obvious as to why. I mean, they're talking Oakland can't wait to get out of Oakland. So it's not like a confrontational thing I'm saying. But I wouldn't surprise me if Sean Murphy had that in his head, like, yeah, I could lock down here, have the battery, have the Atlanta Braves fan base, and the benefits of living in Atlanta as opposed to being sent off somewhere else. It just wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Atlanta's not for everybody, but it may just be for Sean Murphy. Richard Davis says this trade was made for defense. There is going to be more base stealing next season, without a doubt. OC says Murphy's stats were amazing for being on a terrible team with no protection at all. That's a very good point. A point I meant to bring up, so thank you. He put him on a great offensive team, he will be more productive. Yeah, that's another thing to think about. Put him in the lineup in between Darno and Olsen, or some form of combination, or have Harris batting after him, or have, you put him in a productive lineup. I think he's going to be a much better player at the plate as well. That's a very good point. Go watch some highlights. Dude hits the ball solid. I mean, he's been a phenomenal player. Yeah, like I said, Sutton, we showed his splits earlier. Very good point. I'll bring it up again just for you. We showed his splits earlier. Home and away, he's a much better player outside of Oakland. Oakland, a notably bad ballpark for hitters. Very good pitching ballpark, but not a good hitting ballpark. Yeah, he's going to do just fine in Atlanta, if you ask me. I expect him to hit somewhere around 20 homers based on the numbers, but maybe even a little bit more than that. He could have a breakout season being in Truist Park. Who really knows? But we'll, of course, see. Lucas is asking about Michael Conforto. We've had this conversation about Michael Conforto. Michael Conforto didn't even play last year, if I'm not mistaken. Here's how I feel about it, because this same exact topic came up last year, right? Like, it came up last year. Michael Conforto wanted the major deal, and I think that's kind of the point. Okay, so, yeah, he didn't play last year. His last season was in 2021. He played 125 games, 232 average, and a 344 on base. Okay, what did he get paid, though? That would be my question. The reason Michael Conforto is not on a team is because Michael Conforto thinks too highly of Michael Conforto. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily, the biggest problem, but I'm just saying Michael Conforto is not the guy that I want to pay a ton of money to. Michael Conforto got offered a bunch of deals, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm about to check. Michael Conforto got offered some deals. He kept turning them down and never really got another one, and teams moved on. Yeah, so Sports Illustrated did a whole article about it. I mean, he was unsigned all throughout 2022, never did get signed, never went to a team. And it just is what it is. Scott Boras is his agent. Also, just keep that in mind. It is what it is. His shoulder it was a problem. I'm looking at that. But Conforto rejected the Mets' 1 year, $18.4 qualifying offer and never really got another deal. So that is what it is. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not paying Conforto $18 million, much less more than that. So it is what it is. He had an injury. That is what it is. But he also didn't exactly have the stats that I'm looking at going, yeah, that's where I want to put my money into, right? No disrespect to the guy, great player. But in 2021, I mean, again, 232 average, 344 on base with 14 homers in 125 games. I mean, look, if you want to get him on a 1 year deal, that's fine, but you're going to have to get him on a 1 year, $10 million deal to make it make sense for me. I just don't think so. Now, if he wants to come in and prove himself in 1 year, again, $10 million and less than 18. I mean, if you want to dish out the 18, fine. But he wants a big deal. He thought he was geared up to have a big free agency deal, and I think he overstated his value a bit. And that's, to me, why he remains unsigned. And we'll see how it plays out, but that's kind of where I land on Michael Conforto. Is, yeah, sure, but for the right price. And I don't think he's ever really given any team the chance to get a fair price. That being said, guys, we're going to wrap it up fairly soon. I really do appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. Please do me a favor. We're going to read a few more comments, but also like the video. Please like the video. It really does help the channel grow. It really does help me out personally. Thank you for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do a lot of baseball content here. You're not going to want to miss it. And, of course, you can follow me on social media. There are the tags. Again, thank you again for all of you for tuning in tonight. We really do appreciate it. Matthew says, Murphy getting out of playing 81 games in that right-handed hitter ballpark in Oakland should improve his numbers too once he adjusts to the new league. For sure. I think so too. Now, he's going to have to face some good pitching, especially in NL East, but I think he's going to be fine. I think playing in Truist, like Sutton there says, I think that's going to be a big part of it too. Pierce Gilbert says, I think that people are worried about the Braves farm system, but because the Braves have locked up a young core, by the time there is a hole to fill, the system will be full. Yeah, so it's a cycle, right? Like a lot of people are worried about the farm system a couple of years ago, and that's the same farm system that produced Michael Harris and Vaughn Grissom and Kyle Wright. I mean, all these guys came from the farm system, and the farm system wasn't even ranked, but like 17th at the time. So it just is what it is. Yeah, but by the time that there's going to be a hole, we're going to have enough depth. And I think Alex Anthopoulos is, of course, thinking for the future, but the future's pretty much already scripted out in terms of contracts and things like that. So, I would like the farm system to be better, but not everybody is the Dodgers in the sense that the farm system is always going to be good. It just doesn't always time out like that. The Dodgers are going to be pretty young pretty soon, and we're going to see how it goes. Bravos 1 says, Dansby keeps getting better each year, and he's just getting into his prime. Excellent defensively, and he wants to win for his home team like no one else. Okay. Understood. But as Chipper Jones said, if you want to play for the Braves, play for the Braves. Be a Brave. It's that simple. Josh Green says, if you're Double-A, do you prefer spending on a shortstop and have Eddie and Ozuna in left field, or go get a good outfielder and have Grissom at short? The latter. I prefer to go get a left fielder, and I'm going to tell you why. And honestly, I don't much care either way. If I'm going to spend on a shortstop, it's going to be Dansby. Let's be real. That's the only answer. Correa's not one, and I don't think anybody outside of Dansby or Correa is worth paying for. That being said, if you don't do it, you're going to stick with Grissom, and at that point, I think you almost have to go get a left fielder, but you also have to get rid of Ozuna. So I think that you kind of have to see how it goes. It's not necessarily one that you just say, yep, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, right? You have to see how the negotiations go, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm more so going with left fielder on that. Appreciate the question, though. Captain, my captain. Conforto did indeed have a shoulder question. Yeah, Josh, Jesse said it. I'm gonna re up on that. Yeah, that was a very good question. I really do appreciate that. I would much rather go for left field if Swanson was to not work out. I go with left fielder. If he does work out, then you hope he leaves you enough cash to spend on a left fielder. But we'll see. James, should the Braves pursue Rodon? I think at this point they're pretty set on not getting any other starting pitching. I think they're pretty much set on letting that fifth spot be a competition, and the rotation consists of Fried, Kyle Wright, Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, and whoever comes out the victor of that spot. I assume it'll be Mike Soroka, but I'm not sleeping on anybody. Very, very open. If Mike Soroka is who we think he is, then it'll be Mike Soroka. But we'll see how it plays out. That's all we can really do. Jay Flynn wants to go get Andrew Benintendi. A couple of you guys want to go get Andrew Benintendi. Yeah, I think that would probably be the most logical just pick up and purchase out of free agency for left field. I mean, he was the guy that we looked at the trade deadline last year because he was going to be a free agent this year. Benintendi's a guy that could fit that gap. But I don't think any of us expected Robbie Grossman to fit quite as well as he did either. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, the Braves are going to, flirt and talk to whoever they can and try to add on with whoever they can. Benintendi wouldn't surprise me. But then again, Duvall wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me at this point. Let's see what we got here. Somebody says, watch it be Gallo. It could happen. I wouldn't necessarily support that, but it could happen. Miguel says, I believe... Okay. Miguel says, I still believe the rumors that Alex tried to trade Acuna. I heard some rumors that he want to trade Fried. Okay, so this came out today. It's a joke. Don't even buy into it. It's a parody account. Somebody messing with you. There is no truth to the Braves wanting to sign Max Fried, okay? That's number one. And if you think the Braves wanted to trade Ronald Acuna, if you think Alex Anthopoulos wanted to trade Ronald Acuna, I think you're mistaken. And I'm going to tell you why, just logically speaking. The Braves signed a ton of young stars to long-term contracts, right? Now, if you're the Braves and you want to keep doing that, if you want to sign guys like Strider, guys like Vaughn Grissom, guys like Max Fried, guys like Austin Riley, guys like whoever the case may be, locked up for long-term deals, if you want to keep doing that, why on earth would you trade the first guy that you got signed to a long-term contract? Why would you do that? Because then you put the trust of the whole team in a box. Those guys signing those long-term deals, it may not say no trade clauses, but it's also hey, we're not going to trade you because we want you to feel secure here. We want the team to feel secure here. They're not trading Ronald Acuna. I'm not buying it. And in terms of the rumor that you're talking about where Acuna was mad he wouldn't get paid as much, it is what it is. I don't know the truth behind it. I don't much care. Acuna signed the deal, and he got a lot of money up front. In terms of what Riley did, Riley also waited for his value to go up. And to be honest with you, Acuna got paid a lot of money to sit the bench in 2021. He got a lot of money to not play as well as he did in 2022. So at this point, I think it's money not so well spent. I think Acuna will obviously play above what we expect, or above what he did in 2022. But he, again, signed the contract. And he might not be making what Matt Olson is making, but Matt Olson is older, more proven. He might not be making what Riley is making. But again, Riley has been more consistent. And it kind of just is what it is. If anybody should be mad, it should be Ozzy Albies, who's making $7 million a year for 5 years. So, or $5 million for 7 years, whatever the case. He's making $35 million in like a 5-year period. But I don't think he's upset. I think it's all fabricated. I think it's all a joke, and I think we all need to move on and not care about it. That being said, it is what it is. Bravos won. Okay, this is interesting. Dansby is only asking 140, not 300 million, and Dansby is just as good, if not better, than Turner or Correa. Okay, no. He's not better than Turner. I'm sorry, he's not. That being said, I don't think he's a $160 million difference than Turner. Turner also did not stay in his home ballpark. He left. Turner used to be a Washington National, became a Los Angeles Dodger, and then is now hitting free agency, goes to the Philadelphia Phillies. You're going to get paid more. It just is what it is. If Dansby goes to another team, he's going to get paid more than if he stays with the Braves. It's that simple. He's going to. It's going to happen. That is going, because, look, okay, simplify it. If you're working at McDonald's, okay, and Burger King offers you $50 more an hour to go down the street and work at Burger King, what are you going to do, right? But if Burger King says, hey, why don't you come over here, we're going to pay you the exact same, why leave, right? So he's going to get paid more to go elsewhere. It just, that's how it works. But I don't think he's going to make 140 in Atlanta. And that's not to say he's not worth 140. I think he's certainly worth 140. But it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's in the Braves' best interest. And that is what it is. Yeah, Dansby only wants 6 years. Look, I think the 6 years is fine. I don't know that the 140 is. We'll see how it ends up. That's really all we can do. Sam says, I think he's going to sign with the Dodgers and reunite with Freddie. Maybe he does. The Dodgers will certainly pay him. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll see how that shakes out and how it plays out. That's all we can really do is sit around and wait on Dansby. I think it's going to play kind of near to spring training. I don't think we're going to see anything soon. I think Dansby's interest is to wait and see what everybody offers him and check in with everybody and see how it goes. And I think that's what he's going to do. But, you know, we'll see. That being said, we are going to get out of here on that note. Thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Maverick, for all the super chats. Really do appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. It really does help the channel out a lot. Before you go, please do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you are notified when we go live. We, of course, share this everywhere when we go live. I would appreciate it if you do as well. It really does help the channel out. Again, you can follow me on social media right there. It's at Tyler Redmond TV. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We will see you later right here at On Deck.